I know today is going to be a really jam-packed show. We're going to kind of get into a lot of topics today. Some might not be too fun to talk about, but that's why I love the platform that we have. Both of you being CFPs, Certified Financial Planners. Rebecca, you're a tax attorney. You both have been in the industry for over 20 years. So I'm excited that I can kind of sit down with you guys. And Rebecca, I know you kind of say it the best where you're like, hey, attorneys, we look for what can go wrong in retirement. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. And it's really going to be, you know, our top reasons of why you might go broke in retirement.
Yeah.
And I think this is a really big topic that we're going to have to kind of peel back the onion layers and really kind of dissect this. You know, the first one, which I think is going to be maybe the best topic here, is taxes. And how can taxes impact a retirement portfolio?
I mean, how can they not impact a retirement portfolio is I think the more appropriate question, right? Because it's sad. It's really sad what has happened in America, that we have so divorced tax advice and tax, just being rational on tax policy from investment advice and policy. And, you know, Wall Street obviously had to do what they had to do from a liability perspective, which I can appreciate as an attorney. But at the same time, it has just really left the American public ill-prepared, probably the worst off possible preparedness level for what will come as the baby boomers finally retire. We know that most of our boomers we have about 98% of boomers completely retired by the end of 2028, with only a small percentage retired in 29 and 30. So we have, for the first time in the history of America, a demographic shift of our first full generation that was born under Social Security and worked their entire life with Social Security being taken from their paychecks. The baby boomers are that first full generation. So as they fully move on to our social safety net systems of Social Security and Medicare, Medicare, of course, didn't come out until 65, Social Security 35. But as they shift on to the first time, you're going to finally see the need for European level taxation. And to give one example, if you are in Denmark as a married person making $60,000 a year, your tax is 60%. So you're taking home $24,000, the government's taking home $36,000. Now, granted, your health care is included and your university, they call it university in Europe, your university is included. But I think for most of us that are past college days, we don't really care to continue to pay tax for everyone else that's going to college. And you know, and then of course I've pretty much lived in Europe in my lifetime. I've worked in Europe in my lifetime, and I can't tell you, even clients, we have a lot of international clients, and I remember distinctly one client that was German and was in the UK, in London specifically, and she was very sick, and she thought she might be getting bronchitis, and you know, she was going to fly out like 5 days later to come back to the States, and you know, that's an 8-hour flight from the UK at least, and so they decided to go ahead because she had a German passport, and this when the UK was still in the EU, she could really go anywhere and get that medical care. And the problem was that if you were a European citizen with a European passport, you know, so they went and they first presented the passport. I'm a EU citizen. I can definitely get health care. And basically what she was told is that she had to come back in 10 days. And she's like, her husband was with her, both clients, and they're like, but we're flying in 5 days. And they're like, well, but we're sorry, like, unless you're in an emergency escalation situation, 10 days is going to be it. And so they're like, well, we want to see a doctor today. What can we do to see a doctor today? And of course, the response back was, well, you can always private pay, meaning if you're a cash payer, then you can see a doctor today. And this is what happens with socialized medicine, is that, you know, there really becomes two different systems for those that have money and they can private pay, and those that don't have money. So if people think that, you know, socialized medicine and all these policies that are supported by massive taxation are the answer, they're not. I mean, what's that saying? That power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So if you think bureaucrats that can take your tax money and spend it however they want are going to come back and deliver a very efficient system to you, this is a pipe dream. It is not going to happen. So this is why I'm talking about Europe, because that's the kind of tax level that is required to sustain that kind of social safety net. And America we're still such a baby country in the history of time that we have not yet felt that massive tax burden. And yet we are literally only 5 years away from that kind of burden being put on our system. And it's important that people understand that and prepare for what is is coming. And this is why I am such a national advocate against pre-tax wealth building. Because while you might think while you're working and earning that you are encouraging and helping yourself, I promise you, when you've built all of your wealth in these pre-tax vehicles and the government has the ability to change the deal on you, you might have conserved and put those dollars away when your effective tax rate was under 20%. I've seen people deferring taxes when their effective tax rate is literally 16%. And I want to say, did it not occur to you to actually pay the tax at 16%, one of the lowest tax rates you will ever be exposed to in the history of your life? But no, they want to defer, and they're going to defer until they're retired, and then they have to draw the money out, and there's nothing they can do at that time. There's no ability to obfuscate that tax that's due, avoid that tax that's due, and the government has the ability to raise the taxes later on down the road. So you're basically putting your eggs in a basket with the IRS as your silent partner, and they get to raise the rates as the tax demand requires. So you're really backing yourself into a corner, and if the tax rate isn't favorable, you're actually going to pay higher taxes the rest of your life than had you paid them all along. And certainly now that we have the Roth as a legal domestic tax shelter in the United States of America, you absolutely need to consider domestic tax planning and getting yourself into a situation where you control how much money you take out every year, not the government telling you what your required minimum distribution is and what the taxes you're going to pay on it.
Right. Well, because so many people are, hey, I'm going to contribute to my 401k. I'm going to defer this thing because I'm going to get the tax break this year.
Yeah.
But that's so short-sighted, because in retirement, we don't want to have to go back to work just to pay our tax bill.
Right.
Right? I mean, it's one of those things where if we can control that now, get it into an after-tax, tax-free vehicle, going to grow and remain tax-free.
Yeah.
We can control that and not go broke in retirement because of our taxes.
Right.
I think one of the big takeaways from what Rebecca's sharing with folks is taxes are not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And people don't understand. If you ever come to the office here in Tampa, we have a massive plaque in our office that talks about the historical tax rates in our country, and they're very low right now, folks, compared to what have been in our country's history.
Yeah.
And so as we're going through the financial planning process with our clients, always a tax lens in our planners' minds to make sure that all the assets that you have, you're not just looking at it today, but what could potentially happen down the road.
Yes, absolutely.
And again, planning is simply bringing the future into the present to do something about it today. But taxes is something where a lot of folks don't factor it into their plan. And all of a sudden you start doing these income simulations and say, oh, wait, I've got to give 20 to 30% of this potentially away. And if we can do things today to lesser that burden, I think is very, very important.
It's not only important, it's so strategic and it is so necessary. I mean, I just don't understand people that don't want to maximize their wealth and minimize their tax over their lifetime. Let's not just look at these working years, but let's look at all of the rest of your years. Because when you defer to pre-tax, you really have locked yourself in a box with Uncle Sam, and he can keep getting bigger in that box, and there's legally nothing you can do about that. And so that is the dilemma. Am I really wanting to be in a box with Uncle Sam, as big as his appetite is, whatever war they want to start next year, whatever country they want to defend, whatever aid they want to send, and I'm all for helping the world. I do think we have a responsibility as a nation that has been very blessed to help the world, but I also know that I have never seen the kinds of problems that I've seen in the United States of America as I've seen these last 3 years, and if we don't turn inward and look and to fix ourselves, we aren't going to have the wherewithal or the assets to help the world. So we have got some massive situations arising in the United States, and we really have to address those.
Yeah, and everything comes at a cost, and there's no free lunch.
There's no free lunch. I mean, the people that always think that there's a free lunch around the corner, you know, you're going to be going around the corners of the rest of your life, and I'm sorry, you're just going to keep going around another corner because this just doesn't exist.
I know for those of you that are just tuning in, we're really talking today about, you know, the reasons you might go broke in retirement. We've already kind of covered the tax side, so you might have to rewind or kind of go back to your DVR. Great topic so far, but we want to kind of jump into now and really talk about the protection side of things, because I feel like when we see a lot of folks, they don't really have protection built in place, and it could be why they might go broke in retirement. I know you were talking a really great analogy on the break, Mac, and I want you to kind of talk about that to our viewers back home.
Sure. So we like to say that a lot of advisors out there like to sell sunshine.
Yeah.
And, oh, we can make you this money and make you that money, which is, good, but there's two sides to every coin.
Yep.
There's the growth side of a financial plan, and then there's protection side. And too many times what we have seen as we continue to help people along their financial life journey are issues of the protection side. I call it the 3Ds: death, divorce, disability. Those three things can have a significant impact on the overall financial plan. And if you do not address them and plan for them, you will potentially see some significant pitfalls. We talk about long-term care and having long-term care insurance as a protection strategy. Life insurance as a tool for making sure that assets, make it to the next generation, debts are paid off. Disability is a big one. Folks get older, have issues, have accidents. So being aware that there's two sides to the coin, there's two sides to every coin. You never flip a coin and it's just heads. There's always tails. Sitting down and addressing your plan with a good advisor that is comfortable talking about the rate. I think that's very, very important when it comes to making sure you don't go broke during retirement.
Yeah, and I feel like so many people don't know about the protection side. People think that they have to take, I have to take risk. I have to take this risk in the market. If I don't take this risk, I'm not going to be able to have my rate of return that I'm looking for. But risk and return are relative, but we have to factor in that downside too.
Right.
I mean, especially with this extreme volatility.
I mean, what Matt just said and what you just said, Shannon, it's just making me sit here and realize how unique our firm is.
Yeah.
Because not only do we have a lot of extra expertise that I know firms aren't delivering, I mean, we don't even talk about the things that we do for clients that we do without charge when you come on board, because we don't want to sit up here and tell you those things as an enticement. Like, we treat our clients well, and we look at legal documents, we look at estate planning, like it's very holistic and comprehensive. And when we say that, we actually literally mean holistic and comprehensive beyond just money management. But what I want to make a distinction here and really differentiate us is that in the money management space, because they are only looking at accumulation and growth type strategies, they're not on the other side of the coin, which is the risk management space. And I don't believe statistically, as a data analyst who can put a quantifiable statistical value on it, you cannot develop a plan that will be as statistically successful without risk management than a plan that has risk management built in. In other words, we leverage asset classes that money managers don't touch because they're not stocks or bonds. Money managers are in the stock bond space and maybe some commodities, but very rare unless you're in an advanced strategy situation. We're looking at the risk management piece so that we can actually tackle head on those downside years. And not to mention that we actually, how do I say this the right way? We're a true advisory in the sense that if it's not a good idea for you to be in the market in a specific year, 2022, we'll let you know that in 2021. We actually tell our clients, this is not a year where we're going to see a sector that has growth. This market is going to come down and we're going to do something else. And so many money managers, that would be the death of their book, as we know. So what I mean by that, that's an internal parlance. So what I mean by that is they would never get their clients to completely sell out of equities or sell out of bonds. And I'll give you some further insight because I'm in the media space. And I will just tell you that the institutional money and the retail Wall Street mom and pop money, they are completely treated differently. And one message is resonating and one message is known on the institutional side to, for example, short the market for 2022 to make money on basically selling. A short is betting the market's going to go down. So if you look at 2022, we had institutional money absolutely overall shorting the market, knowing it was going down, yet you had Wall Street advisors telling their retail clients with their 401ks and their IRAs and their brokerage accounts, stay in, buy the dip, long term, don't get out. If you get out, you miss the. So do you see what I'm trying to tell you at home? There's two different worlds, and it's very hard to get true advice in the retail world. Unless you're with a boutique like us that actually really wants the best for the client and is ethical and wants to tell the truth and be transparent. I have a really hard time not being transparent and clear. That's what we are. We are transparent, we are clear, and our number one mission is the client first. And I don't say that as a sales motto. I'm telling you, we live and walk the talk. We walk it.
We're a true fiduciary.
Yes.
And that's one of the things when you're looking for a financial advisor that's right for you, you want that fiduciary looking out for your best interest and your best interest only.
Right.
Because if it's time to come out of the market a little bit, we're not afraid to have a little bit of cash on hand.
Right.
Say, hey, let's have some dry powder.
Right.
We're not afraid of that. But also, we've had so many clients tell us last year in 2022, I am so happy we got into some of those risk management pieces. I was able to sleep at night. I was able to actually, eat my dinner in peace and not have to worry about checking my accounts every single day because I had a piece that we earmarked, we took out of the market, and we were able to earmark that piece into safety where it cannot lose.
Right.
There's assets out there, but no one's talking to our viewers at home about them. We are, which I think is awesome.
Right.
And that's part of the asset diversification that we talk about,
Yeah.
and things that can make you go broke,
Yes.
is working with a firm that doesn't understand the full breadth of financial solutions and tools that are out there.
Yeah.
Here at Walzer Wealth, we look at all of these tools, and everyone at our firm is very comfortable talking about them
Yeah.
and explaining the pro and the con
Yeah.
of each solution, how it fits to your specific. I can't tell you how many times everyone's financial plan is different and unique.
Yeah.
It is. And so many firms, no matter what shape of peg comes into their office,
It's a round hole.
they try to fit it in that round hole.
Yeah.
And it's sad. You want to have an advisor that can sit down with you and say exactly why it is you have what you have, look at your various accounts, and explain to you, at least you tell them, what's the purpose of it? Why do I own this? That's a very, very important thing. And then once you have all that input and you have that plan together, you're on a much better course.
It's so great to be here. I know we're talking about the reasons you go broke in retirement, which is not necessarily the best thing to talk about, but we're able to kind of talk about these hard topics and bring it to the viewers and say, hey, there's opportunity. We would not be here if there was not opportunity to talk about. And I want to talk about this last segment, really about the holistic planning that we do and the holistic approach. Because I think so many advisors, like you guys were talking about, we fit a circle into a square peg, and that's not what we want to do. We want to make sure we're hitting goals everywhere, and you can't do that without holistic planning.
I have this adage, and I try to live by it, and I really express to clients these words: people who fail to plan to fail.
Oh, so true.
It's extremely important as you're going through this financial life journey, because there's so much unknown. There's so many different unique solutions that are out there. You need to start with a plan.
Yeah.
Sit down with an advisor, sit down with an experienced advisor, someone who understands his business, and start the planning process. Find someone that you can have open dialogue about your family, about your finances, and about your future goals. We are a goals-based planning team. We sit with our clients, we understand that every person is unique, and because every person is unique, because every family is unique, you have to be able to provide them a full suite of solutions. Now, they're the basics: assets, liabilities, income, expenses,
Right.
of every financial plan. But, when I sit down with the clients, and our team does, we do something called the up, down, and around. So the people that are sitting across from us are very rarely the only people that are influenced by a financial plan. You have to ask about mom and dad and the parents. What's going on with them? Is there any potential liability or anything that have to do with them? Tell us about the children. Tell us about your siblings, all right? All those things are very unique. And I think having that plan in place allows you as a client to understand what's going on in your life.
Yeah.
And almost as important, Rebecca, I know you'll attest to this, to be able to share with your loved ones what the plan is, how we plan on achieving these goals. So I think planning is key. We are a planning-based firm. And if you're out there listening to us, find a firm that is not afraid to sit down with you, have conversations about good, have conversations about bad, and put together a sound fiduciary perspective with your financial plan.
Yeah.
I was reminded, we did a long-term care show not too long ago, and I was just thinking, and while you were talking, Mac, about sitting down with somebody who really cares, and you can go through all of that situation, your financials, your family, your future, and yet they're not having those long-term care conversations because they're not in that side of the risk management world. They're only on the money management side of the world. They're in the growth and money management side of the world. And even their downside protection is still actually in the market, let's be honest. I mean, you've got hedge strategies, you've got all kinds of things there, but there's still all things in the market itself. And, you know, it just occurs to me, I won't even go there because it's such a huge topic, so forget that. But the point is that, you know, the people that most people think are their financial advisor really are just their money manager, and they're definitely not bringing to the attention of the family that they're meeting with all of these other things that need to be planned for and around. And so if they're not bringing it up to the client's not doing it, you're going to have a lot of people that are going to have holes and gaps in their plan. And I think that sharing your plan with your family is so important, because I can tell you, I've been on the legal side of after someone passes away and siblings are fighting because they didn't understand what mom and dad did. I mean, I've had some of the craziest stories of the things that we're fighting over, and I'm just thinking, am I really in handling and arbitrating this dispute over this? Like, you would not believe some of the things that people fight over. So it's very important to communicate your wishes and your financial planning with your children so that as things come to fruition, there's no surprises.
Here's an interesting statistic to share. A lot of people don't know this. On average, inherited assets are depleted in 18 months.
18 months.
Think about that. In 18 months, imagine you working with a client. They've worked for years to either build a business, to accumulate their wealth, and within 18 months, it's all gone. You know the number one reason why? Education. The following generation, one, is unaware of all the things that went into that first generation building and amassing that wealth, and it's not communicated. They're not talking about the financial plan. So that's why it's so important to have the plan, share that plan with your family so that you don't have issues of litigation and on all those headaches that come from
and we're talking about cash flow planning, so income planning.
Yes.
Not only that, because most people come and see us, they just have statements. We're talking about tax planning, getting an actual tax plan in place. We're talking about legacy planning. Do we want to leave legacy behind? If we want to spend everything, great. That's more money to spend, right? There's other ways that we can do legacy planning too, though, that can have a greater impact.
Huge.
Right.
Huge.
I mean, estate tax planning, I mean.
We've got an estate tax planning window that closes in 2026. We've got 3 years left of this estate tax planning window that I don't hear any other advisors talking about it, you know, and I'm just like, wow, you have a lot of assets. We have some opportunities these next 3 years that we really need to leverage that we can't leverage starting in 2026. And it's just really sad, the state of the financial services industry and the ill-equipped and unprepared. They're not making their clients ready for what's coming. And that's where there's a big burden on us. This is why we do as much as we can to push out as much information as we can to really prepare as many people as we can. It's not possible to help everybody, but we try.
Right. We do what we do because we love it and we want to help others.
Right.